Today we're doing an interview with 4 people at Shalander Port. John Paakkunainen, Cal Seabrook, Kaarlo Jarvela, and May Huls. And they've lived here minimum of 60 years and longer. So we just thought we'd have a conversation about some of the things you've seen as changes. And before the video started, we were talking about taxis. Or just to expand a little bit then about the taxis you were saying that were here.
Well, there was 39 cars, but there was about 7, 8 owners.
Oh, okay.
Different owners that owned them. And them people, they're long gone. But in 1954, before I got my first car, I used to go up with a taxi home, me and Leoita. We stood for an hour after the show one night waiting for a taxi to show up somewhere so we could get a taxi ride uptown. And finally one showed up, but during that hour we counted all the taxi stands and the cars, how many there was here, and it was 39 cars and about 7 owners. Yeah.
So who would have been the biggest owner?
Nipigon Taxi was Otto Nipigon.
Oh, okay.
And Charlie Taxi and Larry Ruche and Jerry Ruche, they were combined in the same stand.
Right. Right.
And Larry Larson was by the Normandy Hotel, and old Otto Mackey and I can't think of the guy's name now. They used to be at the corner of Nipigon Cafe.
Right.
And old John Puro used to be down by what is today the laundromat.
So I always understood the heyday was when the Hydro was building.
Yeah.
The heyday of taxis.
That was the big heyday.
Yes, yes.
Because Cameron Falls and Pine Portage, between them they had 3,300 workers during the peak of the construction in 1952, 53, 54.
Wow.
And most of the guys were single. And then there was all the local lumberjacks that were single.
Right.
Nobody had cars.
Right.
Well, no.
Wow.
Taxis were busy. Otto Nipigon made a remark one time, I owned 7 cars and 3 of them were gone to Thunder Bay.
Wow. Do you think it was expensive to take a taxi then?
It used to be $15 to go to Thunder Bay.
Ooh, what is it now?
$50, maybe more.
Right?
Oh,
No, 175.
Wow, yeah.
A taxi.
Yeah.
Wow.
Last time I talked, it was 300. Somebody charged to come from Thunder Bay to here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, see, they know Nipigon don't have any taxis, so
You're right. So right, we went from all of those taxis to a few taxis
To nothing.
to nothing now. Right.
Plus those taxis that were here, the CPR passenger train used to go east and west.
Right.
At least 2 or 3 trains each direction. Raymond Dupuy's old man used to have a bus
Right.
that left from Nipigon Inn 8:10 in the morning and came back about 8 o'clock at night every day, daily, just from here to Thunder Bay and back.
Did you ever ride the bus, May? Because you
No,
were
I didn't.
small. Never
No,
rode
I
the bus. How did you get to Thunder Bay? Or did you go to Thunder Bay as a child?
Well, I haven't because my dad didn't have a car.
Okay, so you
So-
didn't get to go very often.
I didn't go very
What
often.
about you, John?
1963 was the first time I went to Thunder Bay.
Was it?
Yeah, I've been here since 58, so my dad had a 62 Ford Fairlane, and that's what we went with.
Wow.
That was the one trip that year we made. That's the first time I went to Thunder Bay. Didn't even know what Thunder Bay was.
I'm glad you can remember the year. Cal, what brought you to Nipigon?
Well, the first time I came here, I come down the train from Thunder Bay. I come into Thunder Bay on a boat,
Oh.
and we come down. I come down here while my aunt was here by Mrs. Johnson, Elmer Johnson.
Right.
So I come down to visit them. And I remember Hector McIntosh took me back up to Thunder Bay after, and that was quite a little ride then. A gravel road, and so I say things have changed a lot
Right.
since that.
Yeah, I forgot about it. It would be gravel roads in those days too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, then I worked for Aqualair when they put the road over the hill there, from the bridge up.
Okay.
And I went over Ivanhill. And after that, Kaarlo and I followed one another around the country. We worked for Jim,
Yeah.
down there, paper mill.
Right.
Kind of
Wow.
followed her way all the way around, eh?
So there's a bit of conversation, all of the opportunities that people had to work.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, what did your dad do, May?
He's a carpenter.
And built what kind of houses?
Yeah, and yeah, he built a lot of houses, and he built houses in Red Rock that when I moved to Red Rock, he said, "Oh, I built that house like it's 60 years ago."
Right, right. Where did your dad work, Kaarlo?
my dad we had that farm on the Cameron Falls Road, but he was also a carpenter. In the summer months, he used to live downtown and or work downtown as a carpenter and building houses. And
Yeah.
he was on the building crew for the plywood mill and all local houses,
Right.
the biggest part of them. And then in the wintertime, we used to cut pulp and cut firewood, and we had a little sawmill, and we'd saw lumber in the spring.
So when you're saying a farm, what kind of things did you have on a farm?
Oh, we had a half a dozen, 7, 8 cows, sold the milk to Rojo Dairy at the golf course,
Right.
and we had chickens. And when I was 16, I used to deliver eggs every Saturday down around town. And people used to come out to the farm and buy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Potatoes, 200-300 bags of potatoes every year we grew. And most of that was sold to Domtar, to the bush camps.
You don't think about a farm today.
Yeah.
No.
You don't think about somebody having a farm today.
And not only my dad, but lots of the local farmers.
Right, right,
Down the Mata Road, there was a bunch of farmers down there.
right.
And between Domtar and Nipigon Lake Timber, they used to buy the biggest part of our potatoes and take them to the cooks at the bush camps.
So Cal, you really came here to find work? Do you think?
What is that?
Did you come here to find work, really?
Well, I was on my way to Canal, BC.
Oh, okay.
I had a cousin out there owned a sawmill out there, and I had a job and everything there, but it seems to me we got a little bit inebriated when smelt fishing and broke an ankle. So then by the time I got over that, the money was all spent, so I had to go to work.
Where were you smelt fishing? Whereabouts were you smelt?
Ozone.
At Ozone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one popular spot. John, what did your dad do?
He was, well, he come here first time in 51. I was only 5 months old. And he went to work in Beardmore as a bush worker. He worked there for a couple of years. My brother was born there, and then he went back to Finland. And he had a little bush operation out there. He wanted to get rid of it, but he run it for a year. And in 57 he come back here, but meanwhile my sister was born in Finland. So he come here in 57, he went to Domtar, working up in Camp 81,
Okay.
driving truck to White River twice a day. And then he sent for us in 58, and we come to Nipigon. But let's go back a little bit. In 57, he was supposed to go to Edmonton, but he stopped at the International Hotel. And that's history. So in 58, we moved out to Rojo's farm, and they were just taking the dairy machines down, and we were staying there for a year. And then we moved down by the old curling rink. There was a little white house there. I can remember there, my dad loading ties in the back there, and then working down at the mud flats. And he gave up truck driving and started carpentry work. And he built his first home on 115 Railway Street, where Ben Bartlett lives now.
Right, I remember
Yeah.
that's where you lived.
And since from there, he just built houses. He built one on 8th Street, Eric and him, my uncle. They built one on John Street. They built one at the corner of Hogan Road and Railway. They built the one that Dave Kingston lives in.
Oh,
Oh,
He
you're
built that
kidding.
one that on Green Mantle where not Tom Chan, what was that Chinese fellow's name that worked at the
Yu.
mill?
wasn't their last name Lou? You.
No,
Oh.
no.
Because there was another family up there.
Remember where Donnie Rowe lived right at the corner?
Yeah.
2 houses up. You can always pick out a Paakkunainen house. There's one level house, just ordinary 3-bedroom homes, eh?
Okay. Isn't that funny? I didn't know anybody individually built a house on that street. I thought it was all.
And then he built the one where, remember that black fellow that used to be a teacher,
Yeah.
I think? He
Across
built that
the road.
house. He built most of that house.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
And then
that.
he did a lot of renovations on Meikle's house.
Oh.
And then he built mostly renovations in Red Rock, and I don't know if he built any houses there. And then he built 1, 2, 3 homes in Thunder Bay.
Interesting then. 3 carpenters, really.
Yeah.
Well,
from the
that's
point of
basically
view.
what everybody did around
Yeah.
here. It was
Yeah.
carpentry
Well,
work.
we did everything.
Yeah.
When I first started working, my young fella asked me. He said, "Dad, where did you find work when you were 17? Because when he was 17, there was no work available."
Right.
And what about the kids today? There is nothing unless you're a computer expert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all it is.
I
It's
told my
easy.
young fella, I said, when I was 17 and I wanted a week off to go hunting, you didn't dare go downtown, you got shanghaied into a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was work of all kinds. And like myself, I did labor work. I worked in the paper mill. I worked at the sawmill down there by Sawmill Point. Drove truck in the bush. I worked in the funeral home part-time, off and on, when Frank Lawrence was here.
Right.
Drove the truck, fuel truck.
Drove fuel truck, delivered fuel around town.
So now you're saying that's all the opportunities for men. What opportunities were there for girls to have jobs when you were young?
We were just a waitress. I was just a waitress at LeBlanc and Nippy Cafe for how many years?
Because there were lots of restaurants.
Yeah.
Oh, there was lots of
Oh,
restaurants.
yes.
Right, lots of
Because
restaurants.
So was there
working-
4 bakeries in this town?
Wow.
There was the
3
one.
for sure. There was one on Main
There
Street,
was
one
one on
behind the
Main Street, yeah.
International Hotel, and what was that other place? By the cafe, I think.
Well, restaurants,
No,
Bakery.
bakery.
bakeries, yeah.
No, I can't. I mean, I know the one on Main Street.
I can remember riding my bike down to that one behind beside the Ovilio, right along there. There was a bakery and across was a laundromat or something, and my mother would send me down there for bread.
Right.
Well, whose place was that?
19 cents a loaf. I remember that so well. She gave me 2 dimes and said, "You keep the penny and buy yourself a gum."
What were you gonna ask, Cal?
Whose place was that where they tore down to build a bank? Remember George Martin bought that? So
That was
wasn't
that
a
tall house,
rooming
and that was
house?
Rubisix, right?
Rubisix, yeah.
Rubisix, right? She had a restaurant there, I know, at one
And
time.
they had the best pizza in town.
Oh, did she?
Oh, they were great.
You mean
You
she-
didn't mind spending that 60 cents for that slice of pizza.
No, I thought.
And I went to a school with one of the Rubisix girls.
Did you?
But I can't remember her name. I got the picture upstairs, grade 4. Mr. McGuire was my teacher, grade 5 or grade 4.
Because that Rubisix had later on a restaurant, the Red Chicken, or they sold fries
had
or
chicken,
something.
pies.
Where the
Hey,
Royal
Yeah.
Bank is today, didn't they?
Yeah.
have that corner house?
yeah, that corner.
That corner house used to be a shoemaker.
That was
on
Tomala.
Yeah.
Tumala, that's the one I
Right,
was
Tumala
thinking
was the
of,
one
yeah.
you were thinking of, right?
Yeah.
And then Pankovich's had the shoemaking on Main Street,
Yeah.
where close to where Sally lives now.
And Sally's house almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are things we don't have anymore. We don't have the taxis, we don't have the
No,
corner
we
stores,
don't have-
we don't have the shoemakers,
No bakeries, no nothing.
and right now we got minimum restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And went from 5 hotels down to 1 China garden.
The first time I ever saw Cal, he was on the bulldozer there right in front of, at the beginning of the graveyard where, because that 59 flood
Yeah.
Oh,
That's-
I remember
Washed
that
out all
very
the
well.
railroad tracks there.
And I can remember
That's
the
when,
flood.
first time I ever seen Cal, he was on the bulldozer and Hackwell Construction was filling it in, the road, to fill that road in.
What do you remember about the flood, May?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Uh,
I remember that creek being right filled with water. And
oh,
Del Judas's house going down, the next one part way down, and yeah,
so I was
the CP
working
houses.
part-time at LeBlanc, and we didn't think that, like, their house was gonna be gone. And we didn't know if we had a job.
They were very scared, that flood.
Yeah.
Because we were on
The
the top of 7th Street,
Oh,
Yeah,
and
it was all washed out.
between
Yeah, Bell
Sixth
Street was
Street
washed out.
and
Railway
7th
Street was
Street.
washed out.
that, oh, it was just terrible.
because Mr. Everett focused his pictures downtown. I didn't realize
Yeah, he
at
lived on
the top
7th
of those
Street.
other streets
Yeah.
that they would have been washed out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The town engineers and the foreman, and they had a consultant, engineering consultant or something from Thunder Bay here. They walked all along the railroad track there,
oh, yeah.
in front, along the main street, where all those carvings are now on them stumps.
Right.
They were checking for cracks in the ground. They figured the whole main drag, all them buildings were gonna all go down the
Oh,
dump.
we thought for sure.
Whole Main Street, yeah.
Thought for sure.
They figured Normandy Hotel and the theater and those houses in behind,
And
they
LeBlanc's
figured the
house
whole
and
thing
that-
was gonna be a
yeah, all the
landslide, right? It
houses.
fill the lagoon up.
Yeah.
Wow. See, I never heard that part of the story.
See, the lagoon couldn't keep up with the water that was coming down.
Yeah.
And everything is like, you know, it's all downhill, so everything's coming from down Bell Street,
Yeah.
down Railway Street, everything into the
Everything.
lagoon, down First Street where we were living.
Right. Oh, I didn't realize.
I
that
can
was-
remember sitting in my dad's half ton there, watching that rain come down. You couldn't even see the house, and we're only 10 feet away from the house.
Wow.
My
Well,
brother
we
and I
lived
were
on
sitting in
top
that
of
truck.
7th Street, like where my brother is now. And my dad had a real nice garden and everything. And my grandma from Winnipeg was down, and she was so scared that the garden was just flooded. And that's on the top of 7th
On
Street.
top of 7th.
Yeah, I tracked them 2 houses down with the tractor that went down there by the old bank there. They're down in there. And there was a
Yeah,
big panel come out, electrical panel, my fuse panel. I thought, holy Jesus, well, I'll tramp that. So I took it out and I put it on the fender of the tractor, and I went back to work in, and the CPR policeman come along, and he says, well, what's that? Oh, okay, he said. He pulls it off and throws it down behind the track. He's back up. So take nothing home from here, he said.
So that, and this, no, last year was the 60th anniversary of that flood, and I know at the museum, Betty had quite a bit of information
Yeah.
out for that, and I was always gonna do an interview with Al Armstrong and the Fromboys, because they were involved in that, but never ever happened. But anyway, we're gonna stop right now while he resets the camera. We're just gonna continue with a little bit more about the flood times then, okay, Carl, about Legion Hill?
Yeah, the Legion Hill, when it washed out, it was right up, the sand was settled at the bottom of the hill, right up to the Legion doorknob. Bell Street was all the way down halfway to the 4-way stop there. I drove Oliver Rojo's truck for 4 days, and Lloyd Gordon, and there was another truck, I can't remember whose it was, but we had to haul all that sand back up on the hills and dump it where it was washed out. I drove Oliver Rojo's truck for a week there because we couldn't get down to the sawmill.
No.
Right. So John, tell him then as a child, you had a different outlook than Carlo.
yeah. Because I'm a little bit younger than he is. Like, I think you're, what, 80, and I'm 68, so there's 12 years difference,
Right.
so he can remember a lot more of it.
Right, but tell your side then, about watching.
Well, there's just standing there at the corner watching all this water coming down Railway Street and Bell Street, and the cop telling me to go home.
It just,
It was
Isn't that Duluth Street where the car went down?
Yeah.
it was interesting to me. I didn't know it was dangerous.
right, right. So had it rained for several days
No.
before that?
No, one day.
We were in the show, Leowita and I.
Yeah.
And when we come out of the show at 9:30, we heard the first big thunderstorms.
Yeah.
And it poured like you wouldn't believe.
Lord.
And it was all gone the next morning.
Yeah.
Well, we were living Betty, and I was living up at Everettville that time, and there hardly anything up there.
Oh, it was all in town.
It was-
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all in town. I think it come from Lake Nipigon down Lake Helen.
Right, yeah.
And it went through in a matter of 7 hours maybe,
At the most.
at the most.
Wow. Wow.
Well, Leo Leslie's boat was on Lake Helen where he always used to tie it up there just past the mission church. And he figured next morning that they would go out there, they're going to have to lift it out of the water. It's sunk. He said there was only about 3-4 inches in the bottom of the little boat, that open steel boat. I think it's on the sandbar there yet.
Wow.
That's all the rain they got there. And we didn't get virtually nothing at our farm on the Cameron Falls Road.
Well, we
Yeah, it
had
just
nothing
hit. It come in a funny way from stories I heard afterwards.
Right. Freaky story, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
was just right over town, that's it.
Yeah.
And down to the little mill.
Yeah.
And it took off down east because it washed out a couple of culverts on Highway 17 going east there by Ruby Creek. And
Okay.
one Lakehead Freightways truck went in there through the culvert, tore the back wheels right off the trailer.
And I think I read a little piece in the paper where Thunder Bay ended up coming to help out here because
yeah.
you were in such bad straits down here.
Yeah.
That they did bring people from Thunder Bay and equipment from Thunder Bay.
Yeah,
to help.
basically equipment,
I
yeah.
think there was only a couple of culverts on the way down to Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
I know the foreman, I was working for Hockwell that time, and the foremen couldn't get down. The
Oh,
police come and got Herbie Marks and I to go and bring the tractors in. They were up over Ivan Hill,
oh,
so
interesting.
I know they couldn't, they
Yeah.
didn't make it down.
But it didn't do anything to Red Rock.
No,
No.
very
No.
little.
Nothing in Red Rock.
Nothing.
Yeah.
From what I heard stories
Right,
afterwards,
right.
like
Yeah.
going to school there, not that some people would talk about it.
Right.
Because I just remember the rain. That's all I remember.
I just remember, of course, Gwen Nyman and I came in August after it happened, and when Gwen got off the boat in Montreal and the fellow saw where she was going, he said, "You might as well go back to England because it got washed away." And he knew, they even knew down there how
Yeah.
bad the storm had been here, so interesting.
But I think it was just a freak of nature that happened, that flood.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it didn't affect, like you said, it didn't affect the boat, it didn't affect his
Yeah.
farm. It didn't affect the reserve, or, well, the old church and that. I don't know if they were still there. But
Yeah.
just in town.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just one of the freaks of nature.
yeah,
Yeah.
Same as that one that, I can't remember the years, when that little tornado touched down up by Ted Nyman's house and down by the old ministry office where it was below Ivan Hill
right, and at Fraser Lake,
and at Fraser Lake. All the
Yeah.
trees were all knocked
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
in a circle,
yeah,
were touched down and lifted back up again, and touched down over there and lifted back up
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Do you remember the thunderstorm in '64? The ice storm?
The ice storm,
Yeah. My mother had pictures of all the trees with the ice on it and everything. This is January the 8th or something, where I can't quite remember the date. And I can't find those pictures anywhere.
ah,
She took that picture out from the front of her kitchen window. And it looked so
oh, because
nice.
there's the trees across from you
Yeah,
there.
right down into the bay. It was just glare ice.
Yeah.
It was a thunderstorm in January.
January.
I
Yeah.
remember going to the road.
I think it was 63 or 64,
Yeah.
because there was 61 when we moved up to Railway Street. A couple
How long
years
did you live in Everettville?
I remember we had going to work one morning, Red Rock had to drive wheels off the edge of the pavement. They had to stay on the road.
Yeah.
Got up on the pavement, you were just,
So much ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Ice is rare, really. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Everettville was another whole little community,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it was.
Oh, yeah.
There.
Oh, yeah.
Out
How
there.
many houses did Everett have there?
Oh, jeez.
I think it was 17.
That's what I
think.
thought, it
Yeah.
was 17. Yeah,
17.
Yeah,
And he
it's-
brought those from Pine, right?
most of them.
Most of them from Pine Portage. Right.
Gail and
In fact, my
Wally
dad built his
Pushkart
house
had
on.
one at Everettsville.
Right.
and I used to go there all the time. And I know they lived at Everettsville.
Yeah, it was an interesting little community out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because it was so close, everybody was so close to everybody else.
It's a party place too.
Pardon?
I'll say quite a party's place.
Oh, well, I guess so. You could hear it next door, so you go and join in likely.
Didn't get through out.
Well, John and May, then you both went to school, or you went to school here too, Kaarlo?
Yeah.
Right. And just the public school, no Catholic school in those
no,
days?
just a public. I just went to the public.
When I started public school, there was only the old half of the school.
Right?
When I was in grade 4 or 5, is the time that they built the new half onto it.
Okay.
And we were in classroom and all of a sudden, boom, there went another. They blew up the end wall of the old school. And the footings, they dynamited them.
Oh my. While school was on.
While school was on, yeah. That was
But-
1947.
But didn't Willis and Lars go downstairs at the public school?
Yeah.
They had the downstairs there.
They were heating that place with wood that time, or coal.
Yeah, they built on, I can't remember how many rooms they built on upstairs, and they built the school auditorium,
Right.
Yeah.
all in that new section.
Right. But Ted Nyman talks about the wood, heating the school with wood, John.
Yeah.
Big logs and,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting, eh? Yeah, it's a whole, how many times that school's been renovated, I don't know, but many, many times.
Well, in the olden days, we had to help old Alex Allo. He had a little tram on the tracks. And they had a great big pile of 4-foot birch firewood outside. 50, 60 cords. And we used to, us bus kids at noon hour, we used to give him a hand and load his cart up, and he used to throw them into that woodshed that he had at the end of the furnace. All of, I think the last, well, half of my school years, 8, 9, 10 years that I went to school, half of them were wood heated, and then it went into that natural gas.
Right, interesting.
I thought there was a big boiler downstairs. When I was in grade 5, I think,
It was in a room on the one side downstairs.
yeah, and on the
right?
other side was a big boiler. We had to walk right by it, and we always looked in there.
I remember.
I thought it was a boiler.
I
Instead-
remember that room down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at one time, the high school was in the basement, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
that's where,
When I was in high school,
yeah, it was in the basement.
there was only 129 students, all of high school, from grade 9 to 13, and we were all down in the basement.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
There was about 35 in grade 9, but by the time we moved to grade 10, everybody turned 16, half of them went to work. And grade 10, from the 35 or so that was in grade 9, there was only about 18 in grade 10. And then grade 11 only had maybe 12, 13. Grade 12 had 8, and grade 13
Yeah.
only had 4 students.
Wow.
And when
Because
I
it
was in
was-
grade 5, there was 36 kids in our class.
Yeah.
That's
That's
one
big.
class.
Yeah. And that's what they're trying to do again today, right?
That's right, and I disagree with that.
Yeah, they're all,
I disagree totally with that.
yeah.
Because half the people that didn't learn too much, like myself, always sat in the back, and the ones in the front were the ones learning. Well, half the time you couldn't hear the teacher.
that's right.
Yeah.
So to pass the time, we used to pull out the old Alaska ping.
And it's funny how the people change. I drove bread truck in 1954. And then in 1961, I drove Les Clark's fuel truck around here, and that Nipigon bakery car that I drove in 1954. I knew every house in town, who lived in it, how many kids they had. Now I don't think I know a little over a dozen.
Just like the milkman.
Yeah.
Yes, the milkman, right?
Just like the milkman.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was Sallow, wasn't it? Not Sallow.
And if you,
Hannes. Hannes was the milkman for a long time. Hannes.
Yeah,
Mimi.
Bun.
Yeah, Bun
And-
Mimi.
He
We'd
used to
go
deliver
out
milk
and-
to our place on Railway Street with a
Yeah.
big tin can, which would only last for 4 days. And you know, always.
And you go out and you get your milk off of the step.
Or those little boxes that the
Yeah.
Finlander developed, I think, in the side of the
Yeah.
house, right? So you could put your milk in the
Yeah.
little box there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about Finland, back in the late 40s and the 50s, Nipigon was about almost 80% Finn
Yeah.
and 15% Ukrainians, and the rest was a few Frenchmen thrown in.
Oh, a couple,
Yeah.
a couple Sweetlanders, because my dad was a
Well, you
Swede.
go walk into any one of those old homes and here that were built in the 1560s. All you seen was doors in there.
Yeah.
Old Finn houses, they thought of doors, and that's all they thought of.
Talk about, I know that from a Finlander house, yeah. One door banged into the other door,
Yeah.
right?
And lots of them are still on Hudson Street and on Churchill. There's old Finlander homes that were built. I
Yeah.
remember I was doing part-time work with Sam Kluche, electrical. We did this one with a woman's house. We were doing some work, and she was a hoarder. But anyway, I had to go through 3 doors just to get in the house. Honest to God, 3 doors just to get into the main part of the house. But it was built by an old Finlander.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder why they did so many doors and little rooms, actually.
Well,
Little
you go
doors.
back to Finland, it was the same way there.
Was it?
I went there in '02 and all those old homes, all you seen was doors. And I never did question why.
Houses and rooms were built small because they were very conscientious of what it would cost to heat and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So houses were never built big.
Right.
Well, that house my dad built on Railway Street, we lived on heated with wood for 3 years before he could get a furnace in there.
And some of the houses here were built out of hand-hewed logs, 2
Yeah.
sides flat.
Yeah.
Don Maurice's house for one. And the stairway was real narrow to go upstairs. So one spring when he was laid off from the bush, he was going to start to make that little wider and add a porch in the front so you could get a full mattress up to go up into the rooms upstairs for the girls' rooms. He come out, he drew a line on the wall like that, and then he took his handsaw and he started sawing, and he had been sawing for about an hour and he didn't go very far. And his wife and the neighbor ladies were teasing him. Hey, Don, good thing you got 2 months off. He said, to cut that doorway. Don went outside, he didn't say nothing. He come in with a power saw and vroom in the kitchen. Sawdust flying all over the place, and he made the doorway there. The partition walls were 8-inch timbers.
Well, Bert lives in Sallow's house
Yeah.
there on the corner.
Sallow's, yeah.
And that, you're right, the stairway going upstairs is about 18 or
I've
20
been
inches
there.
wide.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
there
you're
lots.
right.
But Don
Yeah.
Maurice laughed. He said, I cut the door and I look around the kitchen table. He said, not one woman left. They all went next door.
Yeah. And they were great for bathrooms in the basement.
Yeah.
Bathrooms in
Yeah.
the basement. And of course, saunas was
Saunas
was something
and
that everybody
showers
had.
and that.
Yeah.
My dad
That's the
had.
first thing I built in my house on First Street, was put a sauna in there.
Yeah.
I didn't even finish the living room or anything. The sauna had to be there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
my dad knew a Finlander down in Michigan that made that stove for me, shipped it up. For $405, I got the stove and installed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lily Corey Costi used to own the Nipigon Cafe.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember at one time, she had 4 waitresses usually. But
I worked
two of
there.
them had to be able to speak Finn.
Right.
'Cause
I
they-
think every business had somebody who spoke Finn.
Yeah. My mother worked at the cafe.
Well, I did too, and I worked there for,
Not for long, I think for one summer. But she worked there, a dishwasher.
But I remember Cookie Dampier and Helen Wheeler
Yeah,
for sure, and Anita Lang and
Yeah.
Salonen, I think. But they could all speak Finn, and they all worked at one of the businesses
yeah.
Yeah.
in town,
Hudson Bay, most of them.
Hudson Bay.
Yeah.
Hudson Bay, there was always a Finn woman in Eaton's.
Oh, right.
and with Eaton's,
Uh,
yeah.
Sears,
Sears, yeah.
Mrs. Rojo, she was in
Oh,
Sears.
yes, right,
Mrs. Welland in Eaton's.
right.
In the
Kelsey
bank
and Ro-
was,
Kelsey.
what's her name? She had that birthmark on her face. Moore, Mrs.
Moore.
Moore.
Well, she worked in the bank, did she?
No, she was the first one to direct me to, oh geez, what was his name? He was a bank manager. Get my first mortgage.
Oh, okay.
What was his name? He lived on First Street here. Oh, I can't think of his name.
You bank manager?
Yeah.
What was there? There was a Lettner in there way back then.
Who?
A Lettner?
No.
That's before John's time.
Not
Yeah,
before,
that's before their time.
1973.
Oh, I can't think of it.
Uh,
I know them all, but I can't think of
Well, I was
the
thinking-
years they were there.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yep, lots of changes.
And corner stores.
Yeah, I would just, yeah.
There's Pink's, Lasokas,
My aunt and uncle
Jurgensen's,
lived-
Krasuski's, Ebert's.
Fulbert's.
Who?
Mrs. Fulbert had that one up by the school, remember?
That Jurgensen, yeah.
Oh, Jorgensen's,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And,
Eva
uh,
Swanson by the hospital.
Lasokas.
Yeah, that's Los Ocas, yeah.
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 Didn't, what's his name? Oh, geez, I can't think of his name now. Oh, yeah. Have it for a while.
Oh,
Early?
Jackie,
Yeah.
yeah.
That one belonged to many people.
Yeah, that's where
Swanson's
her
building.
son lives there now.
Yeah, Swanson's built it originally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cal, did you have a corner store out at Everettville area, or did the gas station have a store?
There's a,
When you lived at Everettville? No corner stores out there, though.
The way
No,
The golf?
I can't,
The Hamlet used to have a few things in there.
I'm not sure.
I remember there used to be a little
whether it
store at the golf. There used to be
Eh?
a Wayfair restaurant, a little store in the gas bar.
Before 1959, the Hamlet used to be at the corner opposite on the Cameron Falls Road. They had a little, you could buy cigarettes and pop and stuff there.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
didn't even remember that. I just remember the gas stations being out there.
Yeah,
That was
VA
before the gas stations.
Okay.
The Hamlet was there. Hamlet Dine and Dance.
Oh, that's the first time I've heard that one.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll continue, and we were just saying how many gas stations there were, and fuel,
Yeah.
what do you call it, tanks, I just remember the
Agents, fuel agents.
big fuel
were
agents, right.
Texaco and BA, or Petro-Canada now, but there was Texaco, BA, and Husky, and Imperial Oil by Nipigon Cafe.
Right,
There was 4 different gas companies here.
right. Red Winfield had one
Yeah, that was
over
BA.
there behind the
That was
arena.
BA,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
And then gas stations, there was
there's Bouviers, Park
Bouviers.
Motors, Forches, Elgar Wright, Eddikins,
Gerlach's.
5 right in town.
That was
But
before they
Forches-
built the ones up on the highway even. Yeah.
Forches didn't serve too much gas after they went into the snow machine business.
Yeah, yeah. And who originally owned Gerlach's on the corner there by the Legion?
That was Gerlach's.
That was Gerlach's all the time there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have to go far to get a gallon of gas.
But you had to wait a long time because they would just line up, and you only had the one side pump, eh?
So what can you remember a gallon of gas being worth, John?
Back then it was, when I first started driving, it was 34 cents a gallon.
What
A
can
gallon.
you remember? What can you remember gas being?
I remember 25 cents. Down
Kaarlo.
at the quarter, you go get a 5-gallon can.
When I worked for Les Clark, Texaco gas stations were 26 cents a gallon for number 1 and 29 cents a gallon for number 2 at the pump.
Did you ever drive, May?
No, not till I moved into Nipigon. Well, for a bit in Red Rock, but
So your memories of gas are going to be pretty high.
yeah, mine was,
Yeah.
Well, even Red Rock had, what,
they only had
Two.
a corner.
2 service
gas
stations.
stations.
Yeah, what's his name?
Jeffries and the one on, in between the railway tracks there.
Yeah, yeah.
Fred.
Fred's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fred's
Yeah.
Texaco, eh?
Fred
Yeah.
Mans.
Fred Mans.
Well, I started driving then. I didn't remember going there, but I didn't drive that much
Right.
till I
Yes.
moved to Nipigon.
Do you remember Leo Lesby Sawmill? Kaarlo does. It's up
Oh,
by
yeah.
where
I don't remember where it was. I just.
Lakehead Freightways was, and be up
They get
there.
freeways up where they got all them storage sheds now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I got a picture of that too, but I'll
Nichols
have to
Trucking's
dig
up
it
there
up.
now.
Eh?
Nichols Trucking's up there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the sawmill was there.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
was his sawmill there, Leo Lesby. And then we had one at home. And Matson used to have one down on the Matter Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had a sawmill, now you were sawing logs for who?
Anybody that wanted lumber.
Anybody wanted to buy lumber,
Okay.
we just sawed the lumber and people come up and bought it.
They brought you the logs or you got the logs?
No, we got the logs ourselves out of the bush.
Okay.
Well, my dad used to bring his own logs and then cut them himself. So Leo says, bring me a bottle of whiskey, good enough.
Well, that was like custom sawing if somebody brought you logs.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Somebody brought you a load of logs once in a while, but most of ours was all our own cut from the back 40.
Well, it
Okay.
used to be the logging companies too, used to take a sawmill to the bush first and cut the lumber and build the camp.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
right. Any special wood?
Anything you would do back in
Oh,
those days.
I didn't know, I didn't.
Jack pine, spruce, cedar, anything at all.
Poplar.
Oh, okay,
All trees were good.
right.
Yeah.
Nowadays they're very particular about what they buy.
Yeah,
Like, if you build a house, they won't build it with birch anymore. Too many worms come out of it, or whatever it was, insects that come out of birch. And mostly poplar nowadays.
so were your families involved in building any, like I just know the Lutheran Church and the
Yeah.
United Church?
Yeah.
They were built by local carpenters, especially the Lutheran one, right?
Yeah.
Had
Yeah,
a lot of,
The United Church was built by local people.
right?
Yeah.
I think the only church that wasn't built by local people was the Catholic Church.
Church, the big one, right?
That was by contract, I think, because it had to be specific. But like the Lutheran Church, you can tell it's built by Finlanders. It's just a basic church.
Yeah, yeah, nice wood in there.
Where the United Church is now, that church, that was a contractor from Thunder Bay. But only 2 guys come from there. The rest of the carpenters, I even worked on that myself and my dad and Township, well, that was all local people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. I mean, been going there for years, but I didn't ever look into who built it. But I mean, it's got beautiful wood in it,
Yeah.
in that one.
Oh, that's been imported. That would come from out west somewhere.
Right, gorgeous wood in
Yeah.
that church, right?
And you know where the Pizza Hut in Esther is now? My
Yeah.
dad and Tono Simo built that. And I was laborer there.
Oh,
I guess I got a bow
okay.
You got
Yeah.
my Auntie Betty, eh?
And then
out.
every brick in that building is unloaded by me and Kai Hemleinen.
See you later.
Wow.
I can remember 2 trucks coming in, flatbeds, pup trailers, back to back 2 trailers. 2 of them coming in, they're over 3,000 bricks. I'm just guessing, all by hand.
Yeah. It was nice because in those days for that to happen, plus the arena, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The original arena they said was
and there was no reason for that original,
Local people, yeah.
no reason for that original arena to be torn down. No reason whatsoever.
I guess it was the bottom of it, John. That
It was the
showed
guy
up.
that sitting in a little office in the corner in Toronto saying, "Well, let's go take this. Why didn't he take Red Rocks down? They had more trouble with theirs than we
Yeah.
had with ours."
It was too bad, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. It was.
It
pretty
was
well
known for
done.
the best ice for skaters in that arena, that old arena. Everybody loved it.
Yeah, we were lucky that it lasted, I think, as long as it did, because I did see the rot in the bottom.
Yeah, but
along
that
the
could have
bottom. That
been
could have
fixed.
been fixed.
It
You're
could
right.
have been fixed.
Right. Good carpenters would have known how to fix that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, for sure. But
Yeah, it was too bad. It was a nice arena.
yeah,
I remember watching Finland coming over here playing that game in was 62.
Something like that, yeah.
yeah.
That's the first time I ever knew anything about hockey.
Oh, was it?
And it was, they lived right at the corner here on First Street. The Finlanders, they had a sauna. We used to go there. I can't remember the name. He come over and asked my dad to go to the arena and watch a game. Well, he took me too, and that's the first time. That building was just jam-packed.
Right.
And Nipigon beat Finland.
I recently was able to copy the program from that because
Oh.
Alex Legacy still had the program and he was sharing it with Ray Huntus. And it's in the museum now, but it was a program from that game. It was quite interesting for sure.
I got a picture of my dad in 57. They were on strike or something. They're carrying signs out at Camps 81. I got a picture of that. You can just tell Finlander's hat crooked.
So did you ever play hockey, Kaarlo?
Very little, only in the church leagues.
Okay, and you didn't play. You
Yes,
played,
I did.
You played hockey, John.
I played hockey, curled, baseball.
Wasn't the hockey on First Street, the white building on First Street?
Oh, the old outdoor rink there.
Yeah, because my brother worked on there,
I never played there.
Right
I played in that
on the
arena.
first,
I was 12 years old when I first learned to skate.
because he used to
Yeah, the
look
old,
after it.
the old outdoor rink. Leo
Yeah.
Westby and Buster
Yeah.
Brown used to be the
Yeah,
rink
because
master.
my brother
Oh, did
worked
they?
there.
Yeah, and then they had a whole bunch of rink rats, and Leo Lesby taught Raymond Dupuy and Herman Manila and all them guys to play hockey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Then I can remember coming curling in Nipigon, and where was the curling rink? Right
yeah. The
there.
curling rink was next door.
And I started curling.
It's where the recycle depot is
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Right.
That's where all Hackner learned to curl.
Right. Right.
By Chase, John Chase taught him.
Yeah, John. Yeah.
He was more like the manager of the team.
Yeah. Did you curl, Kaarlo?
Very little.
Okay.
I was always working in the wintertime most of the time, and I didn't have time.
I curled, but I didn't curl until that new building here.
No, I
Okay.
curled here on the one on First Street.
Right.
And when we were going to school, we used to have school meets. We played a little bit of hockey and basketball and
Yeah,
stuff,
against-
going around the different schools, Geraldton, Terrace Bay, Marathon. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to follow the junior Bs when Alec Dampier and all them played.
Right.
Go to Geraldton, 40 below, go to wherever, Scriber. Yeah, we followed them around when we were teenagers.
Then so you must have followed the Nipigon and the Red Rock teams though,
Oh, yeah.
even though if you didn't play.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure May did too
Yeah.
because I can
For-
remember.
Curling I did.
Nipigon
Yeah.
Flyers and that was good hockey, North Shore League
Yeah,
hockey.
North
Yeah.
Shore, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah, Nipigon is known for hockey and
Yeah.
for curling, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, it's known for fishing.
Oh yes.
I don't know.
How many motels did we have in this town? On the highway and in town?
In town, yeah. That's what I was just saying before. Isn't it amazing what fires have done for this town, really?
Yeah.
And when I first came here, I have pictures of that Maple Leaf Motel burning down.
Yeah.
And that was M.P. Pink's brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
He
then
owned that then. And I
and
remember.
Debbie's daughter
Right.
and his MP's brother
Right, brother, yeah.
and Ilona.
Right. That was one of the first fires,
Yeah.
big fires I remember that happening. But when you
'Cause
think
they
of all
owned
the
it.
fires we've had downtown, John, isn't it amazing that the
Yeah.
hotels
Yeah.
have all succumbed to
Restaurants and
restaurants and
It's
fires?
amazing. It's amazing the town is still here because when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, the fire burnt all the top of Bald Spot. All the
Oh,
way,
I
all the
remember
way down
walking
from.
up there.
It burnt Metzela's farm up there by Red Rock Corner. They managed to save the pasteurizing building at Rojo Dairy. And August Mata, at the end of Mata Road,
Yeah.
it burnt his barn, but they managed to save the house, and he had 30 cows. It killed all the cows.
Oh my
That
gosh.
same fire, and then it come up here, and it jumped the river, and then we got a big rainstorm, and that's where they finally got it out. And that fire started up at Camp 1 on the Black Sturgeon.
I remember Eric Nyman telling me
Yeah.
about that fire,
Yeah.
about jumping the river especially. You can't imagine that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There were lots of fires that changed everything. And of course, that was Everett's main pictures.
Yeah.
If you look at them, was all the fires on Front Street. Everett was a,
And I can just say one thing, that all the history on small towns and that is going to be lost, because they should have a class of it in school to show kids
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
people had to go through to get to this day.
yeah, right. They
I
should
believe
change
in
the
that,
history.
but they don't do it.
Right. You're right, though. That's something that,
Should be in there.
yeah, at least 1 or 2 years of schooling.
Well,
That's interesting,
even if it's only 1 hour a day.
right? But even if they took them, John, to the museum more often,
Yeah,
There's
well,
lots of
you
history.
gotta get them off of this first.
Yeah. But the kids would ask questions, I think, if they went to the
Oh, they
museum.
would, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's just too bad all history's getting lost. It is.
Well-
Nobody remembers the log river runs. Nobody remembers the tugboats on the river, and I used to watch them steady and fishing and everything.
Well, look at the tugboats we had down here.
Oh,
Oh.
lots of them.
I worked on some of them for a while.
Right,
One summer on Lake Helen for Abitibi, I worked one whole summer on the Abitibi tugs. But then there was the Dontar tugs down here, Annesley
right.
and Brompton Duchess, the Dorothy, and how many others?
And that was all involved in the logging on,
Yeah,
the-
it was all
on
involved in the
Lake Helen,
logging.
right?
And the Kingfisher.
Right.
Do you know the Kingfisher's uptown in Thunder Bay?
Yeah.
You drive to Mission Island and you go by it,
Do you? Oh. Yeah,
sitting up on the land there.
yeah, so that was another whole industry.
Yeah,
Here was the logging on the river.
Well, that was
Yeah.
the biggest job around here, was the camp, the bushwork.
Right.
They used to haul it to Steamboat Bay, and then
Bring
it
it
would
down.
melt and they'd come down the river and raft them down.
it was the cutting of the wood and then the river drives every spring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
1972 or 71 when they shut that river run down. 72, I think.
Yeah,
My ex-father-in-law, he ended up going out in the bush on deliver. He didn't like that at all because he worked the boats all this time.
All his life, right? Yeah.
1973 they had the last of the wood come down the river
Oh, okay.
from
Well, I
Lake
remember
Nipigon.
my dad working
And then they had
with
to have
Lee
the
Leslie
river had to be reared
on
by
the boats.
1975.
Jack Dampier used to go around town picking up guys to do
Yeah.
beach combing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and now we don't even have the trees to keep a mill going now.
Yep.
No, we're not very good at it. Anyway, I think that's excellent. You guys have got lots of information. Thank you very much.
Well, that's
You're
good.
welcome.